Hello, and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at the 6th grade concept of multiplying and dividing positive rational numbers. This is 6.3e Readiness Practice, the intermediate version. If you are interested in exploring the 6.3e Readiness Practice for the proficient or advanced versions, or the Readiness Practice resource line with any other standard, you can find those by using the link in the video description. So we have a recipe for cookies that needs 1 2/3 cup of sugar. We only want to make 3/4 of the recipe. Well, let's first set up what we have here. We've got 3/4, and then we've got 1 2/3. And honestly, that 1 2/3, it's going to be easier for me if I make that into a mixed number, right? So this 1 is really a 3/3, right? Because that's a whole. And then I can add that to my 2/3. That's going to end up being a 5/3. All right, so I'm going to reimagine my 1 2/3 as my 5/3. So now I've got two fractions, even though one's proper and one's improper. So if I want to make 3/4 of the recipe, all right, so that's kind of one of these words that gives us a signal that, all right, we're probably thinking multiplication. We want to do 3/4 of something. So then we are going to multiply 3/4 and 5/3. And the only thing I know is that if I'm taking a fraction of something, and if I'm going to multiply it by a fraction, my product is going to end up being smaller because it's going to be less than a whole. When you multiply by a fraction less than a whole, your product ends up being smaller than the other factor. So with multiplication, super easy. We just multiply straight across. 3 times 5 is 15. 4 times 3 is 12. Now we need to do a little simplifying here so we can find a common factor of 3. That's going to end up being 5/4, and then we can turn that into a mixed number. That's going to be 1 1/4 is going to be our answer. Now, 1 1/4 is going to be less than 1 2/3. If we think of decimals, 1 1/4 is 1.25, and then 1 2/3 is 1.6, repeating. So we did end up making it a little bit smaller because we didn't take the full recipe. We only took 3/4 of the recipe, which means we took a smaller amount. Next, we have a small bottle, and it has a capacity of that 35 hundredths of a liter. We want to fill it up and empty it into a large tub 6.5 times. All right, so here's one way to imagine this. So I've got my tub. It has a, and we want to do 3.5 times that. Actually, what we want to do is we want to figure out how much we're going to put into that tub. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to imagine each of these boxes is going to be a small bottle. So there's my 6 times, right, 0.35. And then what I need to do is I need to, if I want to kind of keep it normal, I'm going to do a little half of one, and it's going to be 0.35 divided by 2. That's going to be my 6.5, right? What is that going to be? Well, what that means is I'm going to multiply 6.5 times 0.35, and I'm just going to drop the 0, so it's going to be 0.35. I got a lot of decimals. When we multiply decimals, we just ignore them for now. Pretend it's 65 times 35, okay? So that's going to be 25, that's 30, that's 32. And we're going to just do multiplication like we normally would. That's 15, that's 18, that's 19. Let's add. That's 5, that's 7, that's 12. All right, now what we do is we look at our decimals. I've got 1, 2, 3 digits behind the decimal in my factors. So I need 1, 2, 3 digits behind the decimal in my product. That's what we do with our decimals when we're finished. So the answer is going to be 2.275 liters are going to be in that tub. And that's what we get if we also could have just taken the 0.35, added it up 6 times, and then added up half of that for that 6.5 times. All right, so Shonda's making fruit smoothies. She has 5.25 cups of yogurt. All right, so this is one which we can put our total up top, 5.25. And if each smoothie requires 3/4 of a cup, how many 3/4? All right, so we're going to divide it into cups. Each cup is 3/4. Question is how many 3/4 can we get out of that? So we're going to take our 5.25 and we're going to divide it into little cups, and each cup can take 3/4 of a cup. Now, one is a decimal, one is a fraction. So we've got two options. We can change both to decimals or both to fractions. We'll show you both ways just so you can see how they both work. So if we wanted to change this 5.25, this 0.25 is going to be 5 and 1/4, right? That's in a benchmark fraction. We should know 0.25 makes 1/4. And then we need to make this a proper fraction, right? Or an improper fraction, actually. So 5 sets of 4 is going to be 20. Add that 1 is going to be 21/4. So that's a skill that we need to know. What I did is I multiplied the whole number by the denominator to see how many sets of 4 I have. I've got 5 full sets of 4, so that's 20. And then add that one that's left over is 21/4. So 21/4 divided by 3/4. Now, here's the trick. What we could do is we can actually take the reciprocal and the inverse operation. So this could turn into, of the second number, right, of our divisor. So we can 21/4 and we can multiply by 4/3. We take our second fraction, we flip it upside down, we change the division to multiplication. Now, what ends up happening is, look, if we multiply, right, we end up getting a, let me show you before I just cross it out here. So I get a 21 times 4 over 4 times 3, right? Now, I've got a times 4 and a times 4. 4 times 4, 4 over 4 makes 1, so they basically cancel each other out. So I end up with 21 over 3, which equals 7. Now, what happens if I were to turn these both into decimals? Let's see if I get the same answer. 5.25 is a decimal. My 3/4 is going to be 0.75. Now, what I want to do is I want to multiply both by 100 to get those decimals out of the divisor. So it ends up going to be 525 divided by 75. I think it's going to be 7 because that's what the other one tells me. Let's see if that's going to be the same answer. 49, and that's going to be 52. So that's going to be exactly the answer. So either way you do it, dividing with both as a decimal, both as a fraction, you're going to get your answer of 7. If you are interested in exploring the 5.3e Readiness Practice Resource for the Proficient or Advanced version, or the Readiness Practice Resource along with any other standard, you can find those by using the link in the video description.